Ed's up there with it. I got a Homebrew 4x1 amp that I'm taking up there. So no, I'm not going to run that down here. It's power supply. That's the captain. All the music's right. It's also good. I hope you come on.
W3MX, WA3GP, and good afternoon, Ed. Good to hear you. Again, you have a great signal here, so antenna's working great for you there. Yeah, real good there, Tony. Real good. You sound good. Yeah, that rig really sounds nice. You're over S9 here, and it's got some nice punchy audio. It's coming through really good. So I don't know if I've worked you with that rig before. I wonder if you still have. I remember. You had a picture of your couple of other rigs you had. One was a rack-mounted job. I'm not sure what. Maybe that's what you're talking about. It was you could see the chassis in it. And then you had one that was built around, I think, a DX100. You had that in a rack. So I don't know whether you still have that stuff or not. And fine on taking some of the stuff up to the Hamfest. Yeah, that's probably. You know. I don't think this stuff is going to sell like it used to. You know, the guys are more or less, you know, kind of ditching the old and do a few things here and there, and you know, they sound pretty decent. I always like to run the old stuff. Yeah, I'm using the transmitter for the receiver there. You know, I hadn't used this thing for a long time. I had it tuned up on 80 meters, and I'd get up there every now and then, and never had any luck. And over the winter time, I had a few contacts on 160, but that was about all. So I decided to put it down here on 40 meters and figured I might as well use it, you know, and because I was using a bunch of other radios, but I figured, well, I'll use this one. It runs off a 220, and like Ed's running that Class D radio, and there was quite a lot of those sold, and at various other rigs, and you know, with Flex and the Apache Labs radios, why guys are using those. That little very expensive Hermes Light 2, I've heard a number of guys using those things and driving bigger amplifiers with them. So and they're rather inexpensive too to buy all the boards. So you know, you can get into AM that way, and they got great software, and you can do all kind of stuff with the EQing and the bandwidth, and some of them would, you know, use different outboard. You know, one time you could pick up one of those transmitters pretty cheap. Rangers still go for a lot of money, though, I noticed. Rangers always seem to hold their price. They was always one of the, as far as you know, small, lower-powered radio-wise, they always seem to go for a lot more money. I have one here. I don't use it a whole lot, but it's really a nice transceiver, that 870. Of course, I had picked up the 890 here, I don't know, about 4 or 5 years ago. I wanted to get running the 870 there, and I really, it's really hard for me to step away from something like that.
I knew you had the 890. I remember a conflict with someone else. If someone else wanted it for the whole week.
Yeah, you mentioned Brian, N3TBW. Yeah, I've talked to Brian a number of times. I think that's what he's done. He's with his old AM stuff. I think he uses a little SDR for receiving. So he's got, he's got the older transmitters and SDR for receiving. So that's a good idea. So anyway, back to you there, Tony. When did you say that? Well, yeah, that's the first, still the first Sunday in June. Yeah. So then it's good we don't know about the weather, but yeah, that used to be a pretty big ham fest. W3MX, WA3GPE.
Both doing that, but now you can call it. A lot of it's gone away. That's receiver's handset, by the way. This is the first year, the second nice stretch, which has really been great, but we'll hold up.